Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our SpotOn Series. SpotOn has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called SpotOn Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to SpotOn.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done-For-You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Bill Tobin is the host of the Restaurant Leadership 365 podcast, a podcast of quick 2 to 3 minute tips and advice to restaurant owners, managers, and others. He's also co-founder and managing partner of Tikis Grill Bar. Tikis Grill Bar is the busiest independent restaurant in all of Waikiki. Bill, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Chad. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So tell me a little bit more about Tikis and what a customer can expect when they go there.
Well, I think a lot of people have a vision of what a tiki bar is. We literally have tiki icons or tiki statues throughout the restaurant, as well as hanging glass balls, a bunch of memorabilia on the wall, a few different types of totems. It's a fun place, but I think what we surprise a lot of people with is that we have an open air restaurant. Even though we have about half of our restaurant is cover seating, we have open air with an ocean view, and we have fantastic food. When you think of a old 1950s style tiki bar, it was really focused on cocktails, which we certainly do tons and tons of cocktails, but we also have excellent food, and we've really positioned ourselves that way with that.
Can you kind of characterize the food for me? Give me some garden variety examples.
Oh, we have lots of fresh fish. Of course, we have a little bit of chicken on the menu. We have steaks. We have lots of appetizers, shrimp and hummus and smoked fish dip. It's a fun place and a variety for just about everybody.
Wow, sounds fantastic. And it's in Waikiki, so the weather there is pretty much nice all the time.
I would say we have rainy days here and there, but I would say most of the time it's very, very nice. And on cold days, it gets down to maybe 65 or 70 at night, and hot during the day might be 90 degrees, 95 on a really, really hot day, but generally in the mid 80s.
Sounds good. How did you get started in the restaurant industry?
Well, it was really by accident. I was an enlisted person in the Army in Georgia, and my girlfriend at the time was a cocktail waitress. And I used to, every weekend I had off, I went to the same spot. The owner said, "Hey, if you're going to come here every weekend, can you check IDs for me at the door?" I said, "Sure, no problem." And then one day a bar back doesn't show up. He says, "Hey, can you wash some dishes for me?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." One day the bartender doesn't show up. He says, "Hey, can you make some drinks for me?" I said, "I don't know how to make drinks." He says, "Well, what do you think's in a rum and coke?" And I said, "Rum and coke." He says, "You're hired." and then it became a second career for me, a second job. I got out of the Army, and that's how I put myself through school after that.
What are some other kinds of restaurant jobs you had before you co-founded Tikis?
Well, after a few different bartending jobs while I was still in the military, I moved back to Hawaii, where I lived before I went active duty. And I worked as a doorman for the Hard Rock Cafe, and then as a bartender for Hard Rock Cafe for several years. Got out, then I worked in construction management for a little while. Then when I heard Hard Rock was looking for managers, I thought, this might be fun. I worked as a manager for Hard Rock, then another small independent restaurant chains here in Hawaii. And then, once I got tired of trying to convince my bosses how to make money, I decided to do it for myself.
Very nice. Very nice. So How did the idea for Tiki's come about, and how did you get started?
Well, it's kind of fun. I had met up with a couple of fraternity brothers that also wanted to open a restaurant, and we were looking for a place that we would like. We wanted to build a restaurant that we wanted to go to as well. We wanted to hang out and have fun. We wanted to make it a fun, inviting environment for families and young adults. And um, we thought, okay, well, here's a few different spots. What fits? And then we went through names, and we're just throwing names against the wall. And one of my partners said Tiki's, and I said, that's it. And then we built the theme around the name, as funny as that sounds.
What were the early days kind of like, and how are they different than it is now?
Well, it's kind of funny. You've heard the expression, you don't know what you don't know. And certainly when I'd been a general manager for a restaurant for 3 years by the time that another high volume restaurant. And I thought that I knew everything and thought this is going to be no problem. And of course, when you start signing the checks yourself and you're dealing with payroll and a lot of other issues, let alone the vendors and stuff, you say, oh yeah, there's a lot more that's involved than just standing on the floor and making sure your people show up to work.
How many people are on the team at Tiki's?
We have 130 people right now.
Oh, wow. Do you have any tips for managing a large staff like that of restaurant employees?
I would say holding people accountable, but also giving them a pretty long leash. I think what a lot of people don't understand or maybe forget is that whenever anybody, I would say 99% of the people in general, when they start a job, and it could be any job, it doesn't have to be in the restaurant industry. Usually when people start a job, they say, hey, I want to do good. I want to do well in this new job that I'm starting. Day one, I'm going to go in. I'm going to show the bosses that they made the right decision in hiring me. And I think that what happens soon after that first or second day is people kind of fit into the culture of that establishment. And so if they are really high achievers, but it's a low achieving establishment, the low achievers or the culture will kind of put them in place, say, hey, don't overachieve. And at the same time, if it's a high achieving environment and they're typically a low achiever, it'll often bring those people up. And as leaders, you really need to hold your people accountable, especially when they're starting. And if you're trying to change the environment, you need to hold people accountable to that higher standard so that when people are coming in, they're coming into an achieving environment versus an environment where everybody's okay with a mediocre status quo.
So what does accountability look like? I'm guessing, a lot of the employees maybe aren't career restaurant workers. Maybe they're, students or whatever as a part-time job. What does accountability look like for a staff kind of like that?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's different avenues to take for different situations. And I think that a lot of people who have worked in any type of establishment, especially a corporate establishment that have lots of employees, they are used to a progressive discipline type of accountability where you correct action by giving people a warning, and maybe you give a write-up the first time, second time, and the third time you dismiss them, or what we say, return to the workforce. But what people forget is that you don't have to always do progressive discipline. If somebody is not fitting into your culture, well, maybe I should say first, part of the reason we do this progressive discipline is so that we give people chances to grow and fit into what your expectations are. And that communication is necessary to make sure that you're giving them every chance to succeed. But the problem is that a lot of it is also based around, we don't want to have wrongful terminations or get rid of people for unfair reasons. The flip side of that is that sometimes we hold on to people too long because we think we need to do the progressive discipline. And the progressive discipline, if you know that somebody is stealing from you, you don't give them a warning and say, hey, you can't steal again. You say, you know what, this is the wrong place for you. You can find a job someplace else. And the concern, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to have to pay unemployment because they're going to say I didn't give them a chance. And I say, well, would you rather have this person who is not right for your culture working for you longer and hurting your culture? Or would you rather just pay unemployment for the short time that is? And a lot of people forget that you're not going to be punished for getting rid of people that don't fit, except for maybe you have to pay unemployment for a short time, but it's going to benefit your culture and your organization in the long run if you make those decisions quicker than we normally do.
How important is it to hold yourself accountable?
Absolutely important. I do goal setting and I do daily lists. I have a written planner next to me, and I freely admit that I'm not perfect. In many ways I fail myself, but I also do a weekly review and a monthly review and a quarterly review to say, hey, what did I do here? Why didn't I accomplish this? What is the roadblocks? And then what can I do better to overcome those obstacles? And sometimes I have, like everybody, I have roadblocks that make it difficult for me to overcome, or a project that maybe I don't want to jump into for whatever reason. And sometimes it's just taking that first bite of the elephant to make it happen. Or maybe it's something that I know that I'm not going to start and I need to delegate it to somebody else because it's just not fitting me. But it's very, very important to hold yourself accountable, even when on the personal life too. If I say I want a good marriage and I want to spend time with my kids, then I have to make a commitment to do that. And if I'm not doing it, I have to say, why not? And I have to change things so that I can. Obviously, those should be priorities for everybody, and I have to make those a priority to make it happen.
Can you kind of tell me about the process of setting clear expectations, so everybody is ready to be held accountable for whatever they're going to be held accountable for?
I think that it's all about communication, and it's kind of funny when people start at Tikis. We're very quick to say, hey. You're using analogies that people understand. We say, hey, you're on the varsity team now, and the expectation is higher. I don't know where you worked before, and we love that experience that you had, and we hope that that is going to help you succeed here. But now you're on the varsity team, and our expectations are high, and you have to be able to produce. If you don't, if you're not doing the job as we expect, we're going to talk to you about it. Don't take it bad. We're just like a coach on a sports team. We're going to tell you what you're doing wrong. We're not going to attack you as a person, but we're going to tell you if you need to correct some action in your work. And then we're going to give you many chances to succeed. But if we don't see that continual growth and production, then maybe you're not ready for varsity yet.
How has COVID affected operations at Tikis?
Oh man, I think first our restaurant closed down, not because we got any infections, but because of mandates through the state, and just trying to keep people safe. And because we're in a resort area, takeout was never a big thing for us, takeout or delivery. So we didn't put a lot of effort or focus into that. We're in an upstairs location too, so just getting delivery drivers or people to come upstairs is a challenge. But then as we reopened, actually, we had a lot of staff that didn't want to come back to work, or staff that left Hawaii altogether and went back to wherever their safety net was. And so we started off short-staffed, and then we did we tightened up our menu and tightened up a lot of our operations, and a lot of it was very good learning experience for us. And then through March of last year, we got really busy and things were good again until we saw the beginnings of the Delta variant, and travel started to tighten up and restrictions on restaurants tightened up again. Most recently, we went through the surge of Omicron, like everybody did, and many restaurants in Hawaii, not just our restaurant, suffered with people getting infected and like a wave going through your restaurant. So as some people are coming back to work after their 10 days of what ended up being for most people a very mild cold-like symptoms, then we'd have another wave of people go. And I think now we're finally through it, and we're just hoping that people are traveling. It's been a decrease in our revenue, but we've been able to manage our expenses very well. I think overall it's been very difficult, but a very good learning experience and help with us increasing our efficiencies.
Tell me a little bit more about the Restaurant Leadership 365 podcast. How long have you been doing that?
Oh, it was not planned for COVID. Actually, part of 2020, I had said I wanted to start helping restaurants and start doing a podcast to spread some of my knowledge in the industry. I spend a lot of time with other restaurateurs and helping people in general anyway. And I thought, well, why can't I get this information to a lot of people? And I thought a podcast would be the best way to do it. And lo and behold, I created this little studio that I'm in right now in my basement at home with the expectation of doing that. And then COVID hit. And suddenly I had a lot more time to do it. And so we actually went live April 1st of 2020. And for 1 year straight, I did every single day until April 1st of 2021. And then I was doing it 5 days a week. I've backed off a little bit since then, but I actually have a bunch of content that I'm getting ready to record again for a bunch of new episodes.
And how long is each episode?
About 2 to 3 minutes, and it's just there's no sponsors and no long explanations. It's really quick tips for people to start their day. I don't want to. I think if it's less than 5 minutes, it's worth listening to, even if it's something that you already know or need a reminder on. At the same time, if I take it, there's lots of things I can explain and do a quick hit with. And if you want more information, you just go to my website or somebody else's website to look up the concepts or the principles.
I have one more question for you, but first, how can people find out more about Tikis, and also where can they find your podcast?
So Tikis is, you can find Tikis at tikisgrill.com, real simple. And then the podcast is restaurantleadership365.com is our website. And it's available on all your streaming apps that do podcasts like Apple Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you find your podcasts.
One more question for you. What are some books or maybe other podcasts that you either read or listen to that you've found valuable or enjoyable during the course of your career?
There's dozens of books. I recommend books to people all the time, and podcasts as well. I think one restaurant particular podcast that I enjoy a lot is called Uncorked. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the author's name, but he's a great guy, and I enjoy it. And then another podcast I listen to is the guy from Morning Brew. But the books that I read, I just recommended this last week to somebody. It's an old one, but it's a goodie. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And it's still relevant today. They have a 25-year edition. I also recommend for new managers, the 1 Minute Manager, another old one, but goodie, and restaurant specific, but this has a lot of business lessons in it as well, is Danny Meyer's Setting the Table. It's an excellent book and has a lot of Danny talks about a lot of challenges that he made in his career starting out, but it also kind of sets a good standard for other restaurateurs on how they lead their people and lead their companies.
Okay, those sound great. Hey, Bill, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you. I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Hey, Chad, thank you.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.